Pete Hegseth's secretary said today that in the coming days, there will be a decision, one that will be decisive in the war against Iran.
Are the United States going to invade Iran? That's the question everyone is asking. And today, I'm going to give you an answer that most channels can't give you. Because the truth, well, it's more complicated, more dangerous, and more fascinating than any headline you've read so far. While you're watching this video, the 31st Marine Unit is already arriving in the Persian Gulf. A battle group. Formed by warships and thousands of soldiers, the 82nd Airborne Division, the fastest force on the planet, is boarding now. And the 11th Marine Unit is coming right behind. Altogether, more than 7,000 elite soldiers are moving to the same point. The targets have already been identified. The orders are in hand. And there is a deadline. April 6th, 2026. When that deadline comes, everything changes. So, why haven't the United States pulled the trigger yet? To understand what's happening, you need to know these three forces. Not just what they are, but what it means when they appear together in the same place, at the same time. The 82nd Airborne Division is, without exaggeration, the Army's fastest response unit. When a crisis breaks out anywhere in the world, they're the first ones out. Its paratroopers are trained to land in enemy territory without warning, without a support base in less than 18 hours. They've already done this in World War II, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Panama. The entire division has almost 20,000 soldiers, but it's the immediate response force that can move within hours when the order comes. And in March of 2026, the order came. But the 82nd isn't going alone. It will be reinforced by 2 Marine forces. Highly trained groups that specialize in launching assaults by sea and air. The first one left Japan on March 13th, crossed half the ocean, and is already arriving in the region. It is traveling aboard a huge American warship, so big that it can function as an aircraft carrier. The second one left California a few days later, aboard another equally powerful ship. It's on its way. Together, these two forces add up to more than 4,500 soldiers. With helicopters, vehicles that can travel both on land and water, artillery, and aviation. About 7,000 elite soldiers moving to the same point. And here's a very important detail that you need to know. Look, it's extremely rare for the United States to send 2 groups of this size at the same time to the same region. The former U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense, Mick Mulroy, publicly said that this means something bigger is underway, and that someone is planning to do something with these units and needs both of them. But then the question arises, do what exactly? And this is where things get really interesting. Because all eyes, American, Iranian, Chinese, and Russian, are focused on the same place. A small island practically unknown to the world that could be the key to ending this conflict. Or to turn it into something much bigger. Its name is Kharg. A coral island with only 22 square kilometers. Smaller than many neighborhoods in our big cities. Fewer than 20,000 inhabitants. No tourist beaches. It's a place where ancient history and billion-dollar oil coexist side by side. And right now, it's probably the most strategic piece of land on the planet. The reason is simple. 90% of all the oil that Iran exports passes through it. Every day, the island handles more than $115 million worth of oil. 10 supertankers can load at the same time. The deep waters around allow these giants to dock, something that most of the Iranian coast simply doesn't offer. In 2024, oil exports accounted for 57% of all the revenue that Iran earned from exports. 57% from an island that's 22 square kilometers? Therefore, whoever controls Kharg controls the Iranian regime's money. The American logic is straightforward. Taking this island means cutting more than half of Iran's income. Without this money, according to experts, the regime would face serious financial difficulties within months. But here's the fact that will surprise you, and that most channels aren't telling you. With oil at over $120 a barrel because of the war itself, Iran is making more money now than before the conflict started. Daily oil revenue has risen from $115 million to about $139 million. The regime has created a global energy crisis, and it's profiting from it. That partly explains why Iran is in no hurry to negotiate. Iran knows this, and it's taking action. In recent days, images obtained by American intelligence show that Iran is reinforcing Kharg at a rapid pace. Mines that explode on contact with soldiers or vehicles are being buried on the beaches. Exactly where an American landing would have to take place. Air defense systems have been repositioned. More soldiers have arrived on the island. The spokesperson of the Iranian parliament was direct. We are closely monitoring all American movements in the region. Do not test our determination to defend our territory. But there is a huge problem for Iran in this defense. On March 13th, the United States had already destroyed practically the entire original military structure of the island. Missile depots, mine depots, air defense systems, a helicopter hangar, the airport control tower. What Iran is building now is improvised, hastily made with what was left after the attacks. And there is a risk that Iran probably won't take, but it's on the table, setting fire to its own oil facilities before the Americans arrive. Destroy what the enemy wants to conquer. Exactly what Saddam Hussein did with the oil fields of Kuwait in 1991. But that would also destroy the regime's main source of money for years. It's an extreme option. Possible, but at too high a price. Iran had weeks to make a decision. Open the Strait and negotiate. Or face the next level. Iran chose to wait. And now, well, the next level is coming. Literally across the ocean. But then, what are the United States really going to do? With all this power? Look. There are 4 concrete scenarios that military experts and former commanders are openly discussing. And each of them has completely different consequences. The first scenario is the most talked about, taking Kharg. And in this scenario, the operation itself would be relatively quick. The former commander of American forces in the Middle East, General Joseph Vaudeul, publicly said that it would take only between 800 and 1,000 soldiers to capture the island. Imagine the scene. Paratroopers jumping at dawn onto the highest points of Kharg, while helicopters drop Marines on the beaches. The Iranian soldiers who survived the previous attacks, with their improvised defenses and no communication with the mainland, wouldn't be able to hold out for long. But the real problem isn't taking Kharg, it's staying there. The island is only 25 kilometers from the Iranian coast. The nearest American base is more than 200 kilometers away. That means any force occupying Kharg will be constantly under threat from drones, missiles, and attack boats coming from the Iranian coast. It's very likely that the Iranians will launch mass attacks with drones, explosive-laden boats, and missiles against any force that tries to control the island. And every mission to deliver food, ammunition, and reinforcements would have to travel more than 200 kilometers and would be a potential target. Taking it is relatively simple. Holding it is where the real war begins. The second scenario completely ignores Kharg and goes straight to the heart of the Strait of Hormuz problem. The idea is to destroy the sites Iran uses to control the strait. Along the nearly 170 kilometers of Iranian coastline along the strait, there are hidden bases, missile launchers that can move, and small ports that Iran uses to launch drones, missiles, and attack boats. The Marines could land at these points. The paratroopers could be dropped into strategic positions. The objective wouldn't be to occupy territory, it would be to destroy Iran's ability to continue blocking the passage of ships. And here's a detail that very few people know, and that's hard to believe. In September 2025, the United States decommissioned its last 4 mine-hunting ships dedicated to the Persian Gulf. 5 months later, Iran began mining the Strait of Hormuz. The United States removed exactly the tool they would need most right now before they needed it. That doesn't mean the Americans have no response, but it explains why reopening the strait is much more complicated than simply sending warships. And here, an island that few people are mentioning also comes into play. It's called Qeshm. Qeshm is the largest island in the Persian Gulf. It's also a tourist destination, but beneath all of that, buried up to 500 meters deep in the rock, according to statements from the Iranian regime itself, there is what the military calls a missile city, a huge network of tunnels with internal tracks, where Iran stores and launches the missiles that are making the strait impossible for commercial ships to cross. Taking Qeshm would mean destroying this capability at its root, but it also means fighting in terrain the Iranians know intimately. Literally. The third scenario is quieter, but no less dangerous. Small groups of specialized soldiers operating inside Iran. Targeted missions to destroy radar systems, capture or eliminate military commanders, and further weaken the regime's ability to coordinate its attacks. A former Israeli officer said publicly that this approach is completely feasible. Go in, capture a specific target, destroy an Iranian radar, get out. It's the option that leaves the smallest public trace. But have you ever stopped to think that this scenario might be exactly what's already happening right now, away from the cameras? And then there's the fourth scenario, the most ambitious, the riskiest, and the one with the biggest consequences for the whole world. Uranium. Iran has a huge stockpile of enriched uranium, the material needed to build a nuclear bomb. This process of enriching uranium to the level needed for a bomb is long and difficult. And Iran has already completed 99% of this enrichment process. Only the final step remains to have enough material for a weapon. The main facility is in Fordo, buried inside a mountain near the city of Qeshm, and it was not destroyed in previous attacks. The American Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a meeting in Congress, in his words, "People will have to go there and get that material." An operation to remove or destroy that uranium would require between 1,000 and 4,000 soldiers operating inside Iran for several days, hundreds of kilometers from any support. It's the most complex scenario of all, and the one that would most change the rules of the game in the Middle East, 4 scenarios. 4 different ways for history to change completely. And while experts debate which one will happen, another war is being waged. Silent, contradictory, and perhaps more decisive than any military operation. Diplomacy. Trump says negotiations are underway. That the 2 countries have reached agreement on 15 points. That Iran really wants to close a deal. Iran says it is not negotiating. That the United States is talking to itself. That there is nothing to discuss. But an Iranian source told CNN that there is indeed contact between the 2 countries and that Iran is willing to listen to proposals. So, who is right? Probably both, because within the Iranian government itself, different groups are saying different things. The leadership is fragmented, and at the center of all this is a man whom almost no one has seen since he took power. Mojtaba Khamenei, the new supreme leader of Iran, who has practically disappeared since his appointment in March. No public appearances, just a written statement read by a government TV presenter. There are reports that he was injured in the attack on February 28th. No one knows for sure who is actually making the decisions on the other side. And this is where we come back to the deadline we mentioned at the beginning. April 6th, 2026. Trump gave an ultimatum. If the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened by that date, the United States will destroy all of Iran's civilian energy infrastructure. Power plants, oil refineries, and distribution networks. Iran responded that if this happens, it will permanently destroy the energy infrastructure of the entire region. 2 ultimatums. A window of days and about 7,000 American soldiers arriving. So we return to the question we started with. Will the United States invade Iran? The honest answer is probably not in the way most people imagine. A full-scale invasion with hundreds of thousands of soldiers taking over cities and overthrowing the regime by brute force. That scenario is out of the question with the force that's coming. What is moving to the Gulf is something smaller, more precise, designed for specific and limited objectives. But what about military operations on Iranian territory? Seizure of strategic islands? Uranium extraction? Specialized soldiers operating inside the country? These are indeed scenarios that are actively being planned. The troops are on their way. The orders are in writing. And you know what's even more curious about this story? Iran bet that the United States wouldn't come. They bet that the political cost would be too high, that negotiations would buy time, that the world would push for a diplomatic solution, and now the United States is coming, maybe to prove that this bet was a mistake. And you, what do you think? With the April 6th deadline approaching, will the United States take action, or will they extend the negotiations once again? Comment below if this video helped you understand better what's going on. Share it with someone who is also following the conflict. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now is the time. There's a lot more coming. See you next time!